Hello and welcome. We hope you have enjoyed our sessions and panelists thus far. My name is Natalie Carlson. I'm a third-year student at Quinnipiac University and Game Forum's Logistics Co-Chair. This session will cover women in finance and the opportunities and challenges within the industry. Our moderator for this session is Jessica Iorio, Senior Vice President and Business Director for the Northeast Private Wealth Division at Rockefeller Capital Management. Iorio has almost 15 years of financial services industry experience. She is responsible for overseeing daily operations for 10 private wealth management teams, as well as leading the recruitment efforts for the teams as they transition to the Rockefeller platform. She earned a bachelor's degree in finance from Quinnipiac University, attending on a scholarship. Please welcome Jessica Iorio. Our first panelist for this session is Lesley Leonhart, Vice President, Marketing for Fidelity Capital Markets. Leonhart spent her early career with Fidelity as the VP of Product Management for Fidelity Investments, to then be later promoted to Vice President for Fidelity Investments. Leonhart graduated from the University of Vermont with a BA in Economics and Political Science. Please welcome Lesley Leonhart. Our next panelist is Geralyn Endo, Global Head of Data and Access Solutions Client Engagement for CBOE Global Markets. Before her time at CBOE, Endo was a Vice President at Credit Suisse, and before that position, a Vice President at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, where she created and implemented business strategies for electronic algorithm and direct market access platforms. She graduated from Boston College with a BS in Finance and Psychology. Please welcome Geralyn Endo. Our third panelist is Donna Mills-Lambeth, Director at Charles Schwab. Mills-Lambeth is an experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in the financial services industry. She is skilled in strategic planning, people management, project planning, marketing, and project management. She is a strong business development professional with a Bachelor of Arts focused in psychology and business administration from the University of Texas at Dallas. Please welcome Donna Mills-Lambeth. Our fourth and final panelist is Mary Ryan, Executive Director of Trading at E-Trade for Morgan Stanley. Before her time with E-Trade, she worked with Thinkorswim as an active trader within the product and strategy division. Here, she focused on strategic product development and growing the active trader user base. She graduated from DePaul University, focusing on business management and entrepreneurship. Ms. Ryan holds her Series 7, 63, 3, 34, 24, and 4 licenses. Please welcome Mary Ryan. Now to you, Jessica Iorio.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And it's such a pleasure to be here today. So good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for the Women in Finance Opportunities and Challenge panel discussion. Today, as you heard, I'm joined by an amazing group of women who are going to share their thoughts and experiences. So I know I'm as excited to hear from them as you are. So thank you again for joining, and let's get started. So we have a couple of questions today. So the first question that I'd like to start with, Lesley, if I can go to you, just kind of going through my Brady Bunch screen. You're the first one up there. So as a female leader, what has been the most significant barrier in your career?
That is a great question. I would say probably my biggest challenge in my career has been work-life balance. It started off great out of school, but once you have more demands on you, and I had children, that's when it got really challenging, like having enough time for everything and everyone. And admittedly, perhaps I didn't start off with good work-life balance. So when I had children, it got a little bit more challenging. I started off in I've been in the business over 30 years, a very male-dominated business. And I would say, a lot of the men that I worked with had wives that stayed home, and I think that made their family situation easier. And not that anybody judged me or slighted me, but I always felt bad. Like I had to work twice as hard to keep up. So, and now that my kids are out of the house now, I take care of I'm caretaker for my parents, and I'm back in the same cycle of, how do you stay balanced? So that I think that's been my challenge for a long time. It's work-life balance.
It's amazing. Life does truly come full circle. And Geralyn, I see you nodding over there. What are your thoughts on the most significant barrier that you've had so far?
I'd say the most significant barrier to my career growth is myself, right? There's plenty of research out there that shows women are less likely to advocate for themselves compared to our male counterparts. My experience, men have no qualms about touting their accomplishments and all. And for me, I kind of cringe when I think about having to do that. It feels almost inappropriate sometimes. I've always thought that my hard work and the quality of work will get me where I need to be. But unfortunately, my experience has proven otherwise. So I spend a lot of time thinking about this and trying to change my perception and how I present myself in terms of my work and quality of work and advocating for myself.
That is, it's something we hear quite frequently, especially like incoming interns, new hires. That's always a question. It's like, well, how do I compare myself? How do I put myself out there? So definitely one that we see. Donna, how about you? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say it's exactly the same thing. I've always been my biggest barrier when it comes to career and a lot of other things. But I'll tell you, I've had kind of the opposite experience as far as other people. So I had a male director who gave me a promotion when I was big pregnant. And I was the one who said to him, "You do know I'm really pregnant, right?" That's what this is going on here. And so I don't even know, it was my first child too. I don't even know if I'm coming back. And he said to me, and it was so empowering, he said, "Donna, the thing is, I want you and what you can bring to the table, even if it means you do that for 3 months or 6 months. It's important to the business for you to come and do what I'm wanting you to do." And he said, "You don't know if I'm going to get in some kind of situation that I can't come back to work." And so he empowered me in a way and stood up for me in a way that I didn't even stand up for myself.
Interesting. Mary, how about you? And then just to add to that too, have you come across, Mary, any gender-related roadblocks? Obviously, Donna just gave us an example of the opposite, but so any significant barriers and then any gender-related roadblocks?
Yeah, I mean, it is a male-dominated industry, but I would say no. And to piggyback off of what Geralyn said and also what Donna said, early on in my career, when I started on the trading desk, I was in my early 20s. I was one of I can count on my handful of females that were on there, and I kind of used it to my advantage to look for opportunities. And back when I had started, the firm I was at was about to launch Forex. And here I was with a bunch of men that were all older than I was, had years and years of floor trading experience. But, the new product that they were looking to launch, somebody needed to go and take a test. I was fresh out of college. I had all great study habits. I took that opportunity. I went and I studied it and started just taking my exams because nobody wanted to sit for, I think it was like the Series 34. Nobody wanted to sit and learn the Forex. And I took that as an opportunity, knowing that I was younger and I could take that opportunity. And with that, to the gender, throughout my career, all of my direct managers have always been men. And they've been nothing but supportive and given me opportunities and always are encouraging me to push myself. So I've never really encountered that. Just as Donna said, it's been the complete opposite.
No, that's great to hear. So how about Geralyn or Lesley? Any gender-related roadblocks?
I honestly have not had any gender-related roadblocks in my career. I thought through it. I even reviewed it with my husband. I was like, was I forgetting something? But I think I've been very fortunate that I haven't encountered anything.
I'd agree. I haven't faced anything overtly anyway. I grew up always around a lot of male figures, and it didn't even occur to me so much that I was in a male-dominated industry. It was just kind of natural and to use that to my advantage, like we've been saying. Yeah.
I do remember my first week, though. I walked into the office and I was like, everyone who works here is a male. So it does, it's there, but I'm kind of with you. I haven't had that experience as much. It's more so if you put your head down and do the job and work hard, there's no stopping you. So
noticeable when you're the only woman in a big meeting room, right? You notice it, but again, using that to your advantage somehow or other.
Exactly. So Geralyn, while we're connecting with you, did you have a woman leader as a mentor, or is there a specific woman who inspired you, or who was your mentor kind of coming up through the business, or how you got onto this side of the world?
I haven't had an actual mentor in my career, like an explicit mentor, but I've had the fortune of having female bosses in most of my roles, and very strong female bosses at that. So just simply being in their presence alone inspired me to become who they are, and has definitely contributed to my growth in the career. Yeah.
Wonderful. Donna, how about you? Any specific female mentor or specific woman who inspired you throughout your career?
Yes, I've had many mentors, and I thrive on that. I really look for those opportunities, and I would encourage you all to do that as well. It's to find people. One in particular that comes to mind, who was at Charles Schwab, and now she's moved on, Kelly Keogh. I used to report into her. At one point, between myself and the president, there were 4 females. So my whole leadership was female, and Kelly was one of those. And she was just hardworking, didn't let anything stop her. She had one of those pieces, that personality where when she came in the room, she's really pretty small in stature, but when she came in the room, everybody knew, like, she had that sense of command. And so it was great. It was, and I was able to ask her things. And the answers weren't necessarily, as a woman do this or as a woman do that. It was, as a person do this, as a person do that. I will say, back to the issue of male dominated, I actually find way more discrimination in my personal life than I do in my business life. And that's because I'm a reverse role. So my husband stays home and I work. And people, that seems to really go against people's comfort level or something.
Well, as long as it works for you and your husband, I think it's fine. So, Mary, how about you? Did you have a woman leader, mentor, or someone who inspired you?
I do, and it was at my previous firm, and she was a managing director, and I learned a lot from her, how she carried herself. She was a mom, she was a wife, the way she would share the narrative and the strategy, just how she commanded the room. She was just a total boss. She's no longer in the industry today, but she's actually now one of my best friends. But she's really helped and shaped me even about 4.5 years ago when I was ready to take on the next chapter within my career. And I remember she's the one I sat and talked to and said, hey, can I have 30 minutes of your time? And before you know it, it's 4 hours later and we were still at the coffee shop, and just really, really helped me think about who I am and what I wanted to get out of my career. And again, I actually talk to her every day. We are often in investing, talking about the markets. I don't have many girlfriends that I can talk about trading and the markets about, but I do have that too. But I definitely did, and I have a lot to thank her for.
No, that's wonderful. And Lesley, how about you?
I've had several mentors, and they have all been men. And they've sort of served different functions in my life. I mean, I don't know if anybody's had like the same mentor all through their career. I haven't. I've had different mentors to help me with different things. I mean, my first one was, throwing challenges at me. I think sometimes even before I was ready for them and helping me guide through them. Later, when I organizationally moved to another organization, I had another mentor who sort of helped me navigate the organization. So I've always found mentors and had them, and I've been very fortunate, but they've served different purposes. It disappoints me to say this, but I've only had one female manager in my 30 plus year career. And sadly, she was the least supportive person I've ever worked for. It was at a time in my life where I was just returning to work after adopting my son. My previous boss, who had been my mentor, had just passed away. Like, it was just a very difficult time, and it was not a good scenario. And I just have to say that I think in my day, and I don't think this is any longer the case, we often saw a very different female leader. one who really fought her way to the top. And there was a saying, and I hope none of you have heard of this, but back in the day, women made it to the top and they pulled the ladder up so nobody else could get there. And they weren't very supportive, which was sad. And luckily, we don't see that anymore. And I'm in a company, even though I don't have female leadership specifically where I'm working, but we have many, many strong and inspiring women. And one I want to bring up is, the passing of Mr. Johnson yesterday really brought this up about Abby Johnson. And to be a leader and follow her father, and follow her father, who was such a charismatic figure, and just so unique. It's just, I can't even imagine what it's like to do that. Yet she has emerged with her own unique leadership style, and it works. And she's doing an amazing job. Just to know, and I guess the lesson to me is to be authentic and to be yourself and to find your own leadership style that works for you. You don't need to emulate everybody around you. It's almost about finding leaders you admire and taking those pieces into yourself and being the best you can be. But I love that what I've learned in terms of from Abby Johnson, just be authentic, be true to yourself.
It's so true. So true. So just kind of everyone here, it seems like, has had a mentor or had some version of someone that they've looked up to. So Mary, you had mentioned that, you had reached out to someone, can I have 30 minutes of your time to kind of get an idea? What piece of advice would you give to, all of the students of today, how to get to that mentor? How do you reach out to that person? Is it just an email? Is it an, informal conversation? What would you add? What would you say to them is the one thing to get that conversation going?
I would say all the above. And what I think, and I've had this everywhere I've worked, anytime there's someone that, it's more, everyone is always willing to give back. A lot of firms have formal mentorship programs. Some have informal ones, and, both are great routes to go. But I have never gone to someone more senior or an executive where I just wanted advice or asked them. Never once have I ever been told no. People love to really give back, love to give advice. It's, don't be scared to reach out. Always willing to help and to listen. I'm trying to think of an instance. It's never been no. Everyone, the door is usually always open. Of every office that I've ever walked into. And I would encourage you to not be scared, not to reach out to anybody, whether it's at your firm or somewhere else, whether you're an intern or whatever your role is, just always reach out.
Donna, anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the people that mentored me, I had seen her in different meetings and didn't know her, but I reached out and said, hey, I have seen you in the other meetings. I've been very impressed with you, and I would love to learn from you. Would you be willing to mentor me? And she said, yes, absolutely. And she was a great mentor. And because just like, I think, those of us on the panel, the one, we all have said we're probably our biggest barrier, but we all have in common that it sounds like we're all driven, right? We all want to do more. We all want to do better. We all want to grow. And so when that hits your wagon to a star, that's a lot of what I've done is look for people that I'm impressed by, and then be honest with, I'm impressed by you. Can I learn from you?
Perfect. Geralyn, anything more on that?
I think there are two things that I'm hearing here. One is that relationships really do matter, and two, your personal brand, like Lesley said, being authentic, right? So your personal brand matters. And for me, the self-work that I've done to allow me to find my authentic self and figure out how to consciously present myself to the world, both personally and professionally, has contributed to my career growth and who I am today. So those are two things that I would advise people to focus on: your personal brand and your relationships, because you never know who you're going to meet and when that person is going to have an impact on your career, right? One of my jobs I got because I met somebody at a family graduation party and that led me on my way.
Funny how the world works. So Lesley, I'll turn this next question to you to start. Do you believe that the industry has evolved to be more supportive of women since you've started working?
I would say 100%. I think in general, the industry is recruiting more women out of college. I think it's become more understanding of the working women. And I think also, which I've seen recently, is I think more companies are looking for talent outside the industry. Like many years ago, it's almost like we were fishing from the same pool. You were like, oh yeah, Geralyn used to be at Bank of America, and then she was at TD. We were fishing from the same pool. But I think now there's sort of the acknowledgement that sort of is talent is talent. So I think that's great because, again, a woman might be talented in another industry and some of their capabilities could translate well. So I would say yes, absolutely. It's a very different world than it was 30 years ago when I came into the industry.
And Donna, how about you? Any changes that you've seen?
I think what I've seen more is the changes in women in general. I have seen it in the industry, but I feel like, we have two 20-year-olds daughters who they're much more confident. They're much more not willing to be held down because they're women, right? And so I think just in general, women are starting to feel more empowered. And I think that's the change for us.
Okay. And Mary, how about you, since you've started?
I would say so. And I feel like just every industry in a whole, there was a lot of efforts on just diversity and inclusion. There's definitely those sort of efforts, underway. I think you hear about it all the way. And I definitely feel that. One of the great things that I here for E-Trade at Morgan Stanley, when I walked to our technology department, when I walked to the other side, there's just a lot of females that are within this office, in this space, and in general. And even as I walk around, it's a Friday afternoon. Usually there's more people in the office now that we're hybrid. But it's definitely more women. I feel here, and I think it's not the difference between firms. I just think it's the industry evolving.
Perfect. And Geralyn, any thoughts there?
Yeah, like Mary said, the industry as a whole has become more diverse and inclusive. Concrete evidence, me personally, as a gay woman, I'm excited to say that just last year I was supported by CBOE in creating our LGBTQ plus resource group. So it's changing, absolutely, without a doubt.
It's amazing that we see it here too. It's I think it came out late 2020 for us. So that's exactly it. It's just this kind of unique groups and different things that are being built that were not there, at least. And even when I started, it was like, no. so
wouldn't have even fathomed that. Yeah,
exactly. So Donna, I'll turn this next question to you. How do you expect, I know we said it kind of evolved from when you started, but how do you expect the workplace to change in the next 5 years to encourage women even more?
Yeah, I think the more that women see other women in roles of leadership, then they're more likely to go after it. And so it's kind of a domino effect, right? So women are starting to feel more empowered, more women are in leadership or in roles, and then you continue, it continues. And I love that. It's not only just women, there's all kinds of different inclusion and diversity that is being raised up in a way that hasn't been in the past. And so I feel very excited about the next 5 years.
And Lesley, how about you? Where do you think the industry will go in the next 5 years?
Well, I agree with Donna. I mean, I think having more women in leadership, and not only more women, but good role models like women that you can emulate, I think is important. But I just love just the sort of flexibility we have now, I think, which will encourage more women to work, is just, being able to work from home, flexible hours. I mean, I don't know how many of us, I work with people overseas all the time, right? And, you don't have to be stuck in a 9-to-5 box all the time. And I think that should help a lot of people, because sometimes you can't work 9-to-5. There might be, again, you might have something going on personally, or doctor's appointments or whatever, and you might want to work a little bit different. And I think, again, from what's gone on, especially in the past 2 years, has given us that more flexibility. And I also see, I see, and I hate to keep harping on it, but it's going to come someday, is women in the workforce. I think the government this year is increasing the child tax care credit up to, I don't know, I think it's like $8,000 from $3,000. So maybe there's this, globally, recognition that women, that the families and women, need a little bit more support economically too, to get back in the workforce and stay in the workforce. So I think all those things will positively have a really positive impact.
And Geralyn, how about you? I know you had just hit on the new inclusion committee within your company. Where do you see the industry in the next 5 years for women?
I'd echo what Lesley said. I think the silver lining for COVID is the flexibility in the workplace, right? And I think it's really allowing us to work remotely, or work from wherever or whenever we want, basically, hopefully, not within reason, of course, but that's leveling the playing field for women, especially when you think about having kids or having to take care of elders, right? Because women oftentimes end up being the primary caregiver. Yes. So it's happening now, I think.
And Mary, how about you? Any concluding thoughts on that question?
I don't, but I couldn't agree more with Lesley, just the work from home and just the hybrid that we've all experienced the last 2 years. Just greater flexibility and able to get things done, not in this like 9-to-5 box based on what you have going on in your personal life. I found that just in general, not just for females, I just feel like just across the team here, like I generally feel people are just, there's a greater work-life balance, and because of that flexibility of this hybrid environment that we're now shifting towards, it's just, I think, better for everybody.
Completely agree. And then Mary, while we have you, so let's just continue. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Well, that's a great one. So about 12 years ago when I was first, or no, not 12, it's probably 15 years ago, when I first started into this space, I was young, I was new, I was still kind of in college, but I was working at a startup, and just not very confident in myself. And the woman who was the compliance officer at the time, she encouraged me to take an exam. And I remember I went and I took an exam, and I was so nervous about it. And she really pushed me to go ahead and take it. And I remember I came into the office and I got teased because I scored a little too high. It was like, hey, you clearly were studying and not working. And I just remember I was so proud of myself. And before I looked up, it was just an exchange of books, like, go ahead and take your first exam. And her just kind of pushing me to do that, just thinking I wasn't capable of doing certain things. She really pushed me, and just building on that, it was confidence. And so it was just more of someone telling me, yes, you can do this, you're capable, go and do it. And having that instilled in me, it really helped me, at a young age. It instilled a lot of confidence in myself.
Oh, that's perfect. Geralyn, how about you? What was the best piece of advice you've received?
Well, certainly when I heard this, I certainly thought, well, gee, that's a lot easier said than done. But I do try to apply it both personally and professionally. It's been short and sweet. Basically, whatever you do, it's up to you. But just make sure you're doing it consciously, because that'll make all the difference in the world.
And Donna, how about you?
Yeah, mine's very similar to Geralyn, where I was told many people don't get what they want in life or in their career because they don't know what they want. And so know what you want and then go after it. And that has been one of the biggest pieces that's helped me work hard, be strategic, but really spend some intentional time knowing what it is you want in life.
I think that, and I think it goes back to that first point that we had said, where go and ask for it too. You know, if this was a male panel, I'm sure everyone would say, well, I asked for that promotion, or I asked for that next thing. So knowing what you want, going for it, but also asking for it. So, and Lesley, how about you? What are your thoughts there? What's the best piece of advice you've received?
You know, it was from my dad, and I think it was just always be open to new opportunities. So I maybe my path has been a little bit different, but I almost feel like when I'm ready for a new opportunity, I know this is probably bad to say, but it comes to me. Because I think I'm open to when people ask, hey, do you want to do this? I mean, I did product development for years and years, and then I wanted to do something different. And somebody said, do you want to start a business development group in capital markets? I was like, yeah, that sounds great. The president said to me, hey, do you want to run a marketing group? The head of marketing just, yes. So I feel like if you're open, really good things can come to you. Sometimes we just get really stuck in what we're doing and we can't see outside of it. But in fact, I switched roles 4 weeks ago. I had been in a managing the sales and service models for Active Trader for about 7 years. And, they said, do you want to go back to product, working on our advanced platform? And at first I was like, what? But when I started listening to it, I was like, this is great. And here I am, I'm coming to work. I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and just can't wait to go to work. So I would just say, always stay open to new opportunities.
That's perfect. We say that too, just with Rockefeller being, we actually just celebrated our 4-year anniversary. We are still the oldest family office, but 4-year anniversary of Rockefeller Capital Management. It's like when you get that tap on the shoulder, because we're growing so fast, it's don't be afraid to take the opportunity. You never know where the next one will be. So just kind of staying in the same path, and Lesley, just while we have you, so where do you hope to be in 5 years? And do you see any, I'll say, barriers, roadblocks, anything getting there? But just interesting, you just changed jobs 4 weeks ago, so yours might change again in another 4. But where do you think you'll be in those 5 years?
Now that, what do they say? I'm in the back 9 of my career. I'm not really sure. Retired in my home in Marco Island. It's just, it's unclear right now. I enjoyed my career. I've had a lot of different roles. They've all been challenging. I just started the new one a month ago. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. The work's challenging, but I'm not really sure. I mean, sometimes I just keep talking to people until a plan, formulates, and that's probably what I'll do now is just keep talking to, my mentors, the people I work with, until I figure out where I want to go and a plan pops into my head.
Okay. And Geralyn, how about you? Where do you think you'll be in 5 years?
I'm going to be next to Lesley, retired on the beach also. So yeah, like she said too, there's something to be said for having a plan and goals and all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, my hope for myself and for all of you too, is that our lives become so expensive in 5 years. It's something that we can't even imagine just sitting here, can't fathom sitting here today. Because when I look back 5 years ago, there's no way that I would have imagined who I am now, what I'm doing now, and the life I have now. So that's the approach I take.
That's awesome. And Mary, how about you?
In 5 years, I hope I'm still E-Trade for Morgan Stanley. I'm still, I think I'm still on my front 9. I think I got some time to go before I'm on the beach, but before you know it, I'll be there. I'm hoping. But I hope to still be at E-Trade for Morgan Stanley, most likely probably still in trading, but who knows? I mean, as most E-Trade was acquired by Morgan Stanley just over 2 years ago, and we're now, it's a much larger company, and there's a lot more areas and opportunities to potentially explore, but I plan to still be here.
That's wonderful. And Donna, how about you?
Well, it's really interesting, Geralyn, when you said that about where I am now. 5 years ago, this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be a director. And I, in a very kind way, hardworking way, made my way here. And I told people, this is what I want. This is what I want. And so I'm so excited about being where I am. And now my mentor also said to me, the same one I was talking about earlier, when you're so curious, it's really hard to have a 5-year plan because you don't know. What I do know that in 5 years, I'm going to be doing something that I love because I'm the kind of person that's what I do. And even though I'm on the, what did you call it, Lesley, the back nine. So I'm definitely, in the home stretch before retirement. And I just started doing career development with somebody. I'm paying them to help me because even in these years, I don't want to coast. I want to make a difference. I want to do something I love. And so I want somebody to help me and to figure out what that is. And I'll make small steps, big steps. I'll ask for what it is that I want.
That's wonderful. And Donna, let me ask the next question straight to you. So how do you believe the industry could improve to be more supportive of women?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what we've been saying. The more we see people like ourselves, regardless of what that is, whether it's a woman or many of the other diversity, the more we see ourselves in leaders, the more we're likely to go towards it. And so I think the industry, as there is a movement to have more women, I just don't know if there's a movement to showcase that as much. And so I think that the more we showcase that, the more women are attracted. The same thing has happened in IT, right? So you had mentioned that earlier, Mary, there's not as many women in IT, but the more you see, then the more we will get. And so as we showcase women in places, and the more, as Lesley said, the more as women that we help other women up, then it's going to make a difference in the industry.
Completely agree. And Mary, what are your thoughts on how the industry could improve to be more supportive?
How it can improve? I feel like there's just a lot more that we see. As we know, it's Women's History Month right now, and I feel fortunate at the firm. They celebrated, and we've had so many events this month. My favorite part that actually what the firm is doing is every morning we get a daily inspiration. We've been getting every day the month of March, and it's women at the firm that have submitted a quote from someone in, just an inspirational quote of another female in just the world, whoever it be. And so, I'm sure there's more work to be done, but I feel like a lot has been done to date. And I definitely feel sure that you guys would agree that I think in the last few years, there's been a lot of strides that have been taking place.
Yes, 100%. Geralyn, how about you? Anything that the industry can improve on to be more supportive? I know we talked about where it's come from, but let's see where we can get it to.
Yeah, this one kind of stumped me because I honestly think we're doing pretty well, right? We're having these conversations. It's panels like this, and this isn't the first time we've had a panel like this. And the women panels happen across the industry. So having the conversation, creating that awareness, that's what we're doing, and that's what's going to get us to a place where we're all happy and it doesn't become a male female thing anymore, or whatever diversity group we're talking about. So. And so also we're not only having the conversations, but we're taking steps to affect change, which I think is key too. And people are willing to do that.
Yeah.
So I think we're on our way. I'm not sure what else we could do more.
We have to keep going.
Yeah.
And Lesley, how about you? I know Fidelity does a really good job with this too. So
yeah, again, there's just, women's network, there's mentoring, I agree with Donna, just women helping other women is so important in the workforce. But, another one, and I, in addition to my role in product right now, I also run our special events program, which is live education. And I just feel like I just am concerned that I think so many women are intimidated by finances and investments. Specifically, I would just love to see investment education offered in public school, really, in a much greater degree and sort of required. I think if we get more women understanding and investing at a younger age, it'll help them not only achieve their goals, but maybe make them more open to financial services, maybe make it less intimidating as a career.
Absolutely. Anytime I have this conversation, and I think someone had said earlier, they don't have that group of friends that they're talking about finances with. And anytime I do, I always say, like, pick one company that you love, like whether it's maybe not Peloton, but, pick a name that you love, and just follow it, put a little bit of money in it just so that you have the opportunity to see what's out there, how the stock market works, how the equity bond, whatever it is, just so that it's not so scary. I completely agree.
And Jessica, that's a great point, because when I talk to young women about investing, the ones who do invest or trade, they will talk to their father or the brother, or yet the guys are like, oh yeah, I talk about this with my friends. So, perfect example. Yes,
I do it. My little sister has, money, and she could keep TJ Maxx in business by herself. So she has bought, she's like, I have a little bit of money, I want to buy TJ Maxx. We're like, okay, great, go for it. So she's bought it in her own account, and it's done very well, and she's thrilled. And it's not that I recommended it or solicited. It's a company that she knows she likes. She likes shopping there, and it's fun for her to watch. So exactly that. It's just find some sort of comfort in it.
And I would say, Jessica, one of the things we do, Schwab has recently, acquired TDA, and TDA has paper money. And so you can get in there and you can try it. And that way you're not losing your own money. You want to also be invested. So you use, some of your own. But I love that ability to be able to go in and trade and learn and grow without having a lot of your own money or losing a lot of your own money as you're learning.
Exactly. So the last question that I have, and then we'll open it up to the kind of Q&A session from the panel, is what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders? So Donna, we'll start with you.
I would say work hard, be yourself. Don't be who you think you need to be, but be yourself. Being authentic is definitely the leadership quality that that is in some ways the hardest, but it does make the most difference.
And Lesley, how about you?
I'm going to say one more time, go back, learn work-life balance early in your career so you have good habits when things get really stressful. But, another one I think is really important is just, especially when you're starting off, like, know when to ask for help. Like, I just remember starting off and I thought I had to do everything by, figure out everything by myself, and just know when to ask for help. It's okay. Everybody can't do everything by themselves, and asking for help is okay.
And Mary, how about you?
So to piggyback off of that, ask questions and learn. I mean, don't try to figure it out yourself. Asking questions, asking the right questions. And I would say currently in this environment, show up to the office a few days a week. I know some of you are probably be hired hybrid. Here in our leadership, we're all here every day, and we think it's important to show up, whether it's a few days a week. What I really like about it is, if you can't tell, I'm the one that keeps the candy on my desk. If you've noticed, people have been coming by my desk. Just being able to ask questions, interact with your peers, being able to ask and learn. I think really in the last couple of years, we do have this great better work-life balance, but I also do think it's very important to interact and come into the office, not every day necessarily, but to come in, show up, leadership, and just really building networks with your peers. You make so many relationships, or you learn things about the company and the industry, even if you're going to just grab a coffee. I just think that's also important to keep in mind as you're entering potentially a hybrid workforce, that it is important to have those in-office interactions with folks.
Definitely agree. And also, I think it's easier in person to get like that mentorship, get the development of the relationship. So yes, and even if it's a couple of days a week, I agree. It's just nice to walk in and you're like, you miss that human interaction. It's like coming home from summer break and everyone comes back to college. You're like, oh my God, how was your summer? We're here. So it's good. And Geralyn, what are your thoughts?
I'd reiterate what we've all said, I guess, throughout the panel. Is one, be sure to advocate for yourself. Two, relationships matter, whether it's a formal mentorship or an informal thing. They really do matter. And then three is think about your personal brand and what you want that to look like and how you want to present yourself to the world.
Great. And now we'll open it up to some questions that we have from the attendees. So Geralyn, I'll start this one with you because you actually touched on it earlier. What kind of support do your companies offer for women and for the company as a whole?
So I mentioned the LGBT resource group. We also have a women's group that meets on a regular basis. And it goes from anything from just a reading group, right? We have a book club and we talk about, RBG or any other books in the industry that might be relevant, right? And we share stories that way. But it's also it's more of an informal thing too, oftentimes, right? Where we have those conversations internally, and as a whole, whether it's male or female leaders, we're all doing our best to advocate for our younger women.
Oh, that's great. Lesley, Donna, Mary, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, at Schwab we have.
Oh, sorry.
At Schwab we do have similar to what you were talking about, ERGs, so employee resource groups, and we have them for women. We have them LGBT. We have environmentalists. We have and military, all kinds of things. And the thing that's really neat, in my opinion, is it's not something that is seen as, oh, you should do that kind of on your own time. At Schwab, we really embrace that we have diversity and we want to be inclusive. And so those ERGs are a part of your job. They're a part of, it's voluntary, but it's something you put on your annual review. I was a co-leader in WINS, Women's Interactive Network, or I've participated in these various diversity groups. And the other thing is, you don't have to be a member. You don't have to be that person that it says. So, for instance, we have BPACs, and that's Black professionals. And it was for a while, one of the chairs was a male who was white, and he said, I just really want to make sure that we're all being able to be inclusive even in our like-mindedness. And so to have a man to be involved heavily in WINS or leading it, or to have a non-military person be in support of it or be a leader of it, just makes a lot of difference, to be able to be who you are and express that in many different ways.
Great. And Lesley, any additional thoughts?
I think everybody covered it. Women's Network, they're just subgroups to cover every sort of, even people like me who, take care of their parents, just every possible scenario you could think, which is great. And I think there's just so much diversity and inclusion awareness throughout the firm on a regular basis, which I think sort of sets the standard for who we are and who we want to be, and sort of helps people who might not be there, right, just understand, gain a little bit better understanding. So yeah, I think pretty much, again, the same thing everybody else is saying.
Great. And Mary, I'm going to
turn and I would agree.
I was going to say, yep, I'm going to turn it to you.
Yeah, I was going to say we have the same employee research groups here for, all the different areas that everyone touched upon too. I think that's, something that is normal within the industry now at firms.
Completely. And I think it's also a fair question that you can ask during an interview. I think coming into a company, like what kind of inclusion committee groups do you have? What do you have? I think it's very a fair question because there are so many companies that are doing it, and it's a big initiative. Mary, I'll start this next question with you too, because you had mentioned, kind of coming into the office. So one of the questions is, what are the important tips you have as a woman entering an internship in the finance world?
Well, the important thing is to apply for that internship, to just get your foot started within the industry. In a previous life, I used to manage an internship program and just learn. Try to ask all the questions, take your time, shadow individuals, learn all the different areas within the firm and the company. When I entered into the space, I'm on the trading product team. I didn't necessarily know what trading product is, and there's just so many different facets when you think of finance. There's so many areas and opportunities. You may be right now in a finance program, but there's so many areas within compliance, legal, marketing, technology, project management, communications, PR, sales, service. There's just so many different areas and facets within in finance in itself within a firm. So I would try to learn as much as you possibly can and get the most out of your internship.
Great. Geralyn, anything to add on that one?
I'd agree. Yeah, stay curious, and while your internship may be focused in one area, there's no reason why I'd encourage you to go push the boundaries and go beyond that area and just talk to people to really get a better understanding of what the opportunities are. Because looking back in the day, like I had no idea what different jobs were. So until you ask the questions, you won't really get a sense of what potential opportunities are out there, yeah, and what you really like.
No, that's great.
And it might help you eliminate what you don't like, right? Which is just as important.
Might be more, because if you don't like, nobody wants to do what you don't like forever. So Donna, I'm going to turn the next question to you, because I think it was you who said you had a female manager who was one of the least supportive that you had. So one of the questions is, how do you deal with poor managers and setbacks because of gender roles?
Yeah, and I think actually that was Lesley.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So why don't you want to go ahead and go to Lesley, or would you like for me to answer?
You take first stab at it, and then we'll go to Lesley.
Yeah. It's hard, right? It's just hard. It's hard to have a manager who's not supportive, no matter what the gender is. It's hard to be able to make your way. But what I find, and I did have a female manager that was not supportive, in the sense that it was her nature, I think, to hold things close to the chest. And so I had to do a really good job of keeping myself, the internal part of myself, motivated, and continue to ask questions, even though there was a sense of, I don't want you to ask any more questions, because that's what you're there for. And so I think you have to continue to be who you are and what you're after, regardless of their lack of support. And you find it you treat it as an opportunity to learn.
And Lesley, any other thoughts on that?
I think when you have a poor manager, I think there's two levels of that, right? Some people are inexperienced managers and might not be doing a good job because of their inexperience. And for those scenarios, I would say honest feedback's important. Like, I never want to leave without having a conversation first. And I have been in scenarios where I had people who started off not so great, but through good communication, good, honest communication, given with the right tone and et cetera, which is a much longer conversation, got us to a better place of understanding and working, et cetera. But I've been in a place like the story I told, where this person was not supportive, was never going to be supportive, and I found another role. So I don't know, like, it's not failure. You know what I mean? If this person, if you're never going to have a good relationship and you're not going to be productive, I think sometimes staying in that scenario makes you lose your confidence, and you come to work unhappy, and that's never how I've wanted to live my life. So I would say, again, if you're able to work through it and you make changes, great. If not, it's not failure to leave. It's just, again, about keeping yourself happy and productive.
Great. The next question is for Geralyn specific. So I'm a non-traditional student and gay woman, and I was wondering if you ever encountered anyone, client, peer, boss, etc., who was uncomfortable with your sexual orientation, and how did you respond, overcome this barrier, if so?
I have not, fortunately, no. Coming back to what I said earlier, like I was my own barrier. For years, I kept myself small and hidden. So I was afraid of some sort of backlash. So I wasn't out for a long time. It took a lot of that self-work to do and self-awareness for me to be comfortable with myself and my own skin to be able to actually come out. So until then, it only kept myself small and made my life difficult because, for example, after a weekend, right, on Monday, everybody was talking about what they did over the weekend, and I was careful about how I structured things because I didn't want to share exactly what I did and who I did things with, right? So no, I don't think there would be necessarily any direct backlash. It was just me, myself, keeping myself small and holding back and not allowing myself to bring my full authentic self to work, which only ultimately inhibited my ability to grow and perform as best as I could.
Thank you. And Mary, I'll turn the next question to you. How can those who are unable to do an internship due to family and work commitments compete after graduation?
That's a great question. I would say, I think in this environment, if you're unable to do an internship due to that, I mean, there's definitely other ways to get involved and to learn. If you can take extra courses or curriculars, there's, a lot of education online, or things where you can learn, or things where you can, try to get yourself involved, whether if it's virtually or join something like there's a lot of networks that you can do. I would try to network, maybe, there's obviously LinkedIn, but there's usually groups or things online or locally chapters that you could probably participate in that will probably have a much smaller time commitment. Maybe there's they meet once a month. I would try to seek those out. And then also networking, I think, is very important. Geralyn mentioned earlier, she got a job for meeting somebody at a family graduation over the summer. When I chose to switch firms, it was because of a network that I had kind of built up. It's never too early to start networking and building your network, whether it's online, through it's your friends that are probably getting internships in other places, and you can learn about the various companies and their experience through them. So I think networking is important, and is, like I said, there's things to get involved in that hopefully have a smaller time commitment, but can help you build and learn while you're unable to get an internship.
No, that's wonderful. And with that, we are actually at the top of the hour, if you could believe that. It went pretty quick. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. There are a few more chats, question and answers that are in there. So I will go in and just type out answers. So don't feel that we missed anything, but hopefully you got a lot out of this. And ladies, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on today with you, and I look forward to next year's.
Thank you so much to our panelists and moderator for joining us today. I hope everyone has a great day.